Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your 20-minute talking knockouts, the boxing show that delivers the hard-hitting opinions from one half of Hard Truth. It is, of course, Kahn versus Brook. We've done Fury versus Wilder. We have done Canelo versus
Caleb Plant.
Thank you very much. This is now Kahn versus Brook. Matthew Phillips joining me again as always. How are you, first of all?
I'm good, thanks. I've survived the winds, the hurricane, the 100-mile-an-hour gusts, or wherever it was. I've lost the roof tile, as I was saying to you just before we came on here. It's a bit scary. It landed on your head. Landed in my hedge, luckily.
Yeah, it is a scary thing. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the Kahn versus Brook rivalry, obviously they had their face-off today. I'm going to, courtesy of Sky Sports Boxing, it got a little bit fiery, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
These things always tend to, but this is a rivalry that potentially has the makings to literally go into street fight level on fight night.
Yeah. Well,
because it's a well. How do we get here? First of all, Matt, tell us how we got here.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's another chapter in the Battle of Britain boxing almanac for years to come. There. I mean, you think of Froch Groves, you think of Hay Bellew, you think of, but even going back to the late 80s into the 90s, you're thinking of like Eubank and Ben, all of which was all those three fights I've just mentioned, by the way, all went to 2 fights. So whether or not you'll see a second one after this, I don't know. It depends what happens tomorrow.
It's the norm in modern boxing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a rematch clause in there, but they've only put that in there apparently, according to Ben Shalom, who's the promoter for Sky now on Boxer. They've just put it in there in case there's like a dodgy end or something. But you never know. I mean, like you said, it's been fiery. It's been brewing for a long time. We probably should have seen this fight, 5 or 6 years ago. I think
their prime. In
their prime, yeah. And I think back to, probably almost a decade ago when they were sitting on a bench on Sky Sports Ringside magazine show, which was a great little show. You know, wish that was still going, really. And they were arguing the toss then. But it probably was first spoken about, actually. If you actually think back to 2005. So what's that, 17 years ago? And Kahn's just come out of Athens as a silver medalist. Brook was about 8-0 as a pro. And I think Kahn maybe was 1-0. And they were talking about it then. You know, and there'd always been kind of rivals, albeit in different divisions in the amateur game. And of course, Kahn profile. Everyone knew Amir was coming out of the amateur game. And he famously he avenged that loss out of the Olympics on ITV. It was his last amateur fight, in which Jim Rosenthal not only commentated, presented, and interviewed, he did the whole thing on ITV just himself. That's how Jim Rosenthal.
Just short of refereeing and actual boxing himself, really, that night, wasn't he? Literally.
Being the chief seconds, yeah. So that's how far this has gone back. And I think it's probably, if you've watched like The Gloves Are Off, and if you've watched the 2 shows Behind the Ropes, you could probably see there that, you know, Amir's always given short thrift a little bit to Kell's career. It's not been quite in the same.
No respect at all. None whatsoever.
It's not been quite in the same ballpark as what Amir's has been. Although, you know, I really like both fighters and I've always supported them in their respective careers. But obviously there's been some animosity there. And I think Kell is bitter that maybe his career hasn't quite reached the heights of Amir's. You've got to remember, Amir hadn't boxed in the UK for a long time because he was headlining pay-per-views in the States. That's probably kind of what Kell wanted to do. But if you actually look at their respective careers, Kell has probably got the biggest win. He beat a prime Sean Porter for his IBF welterweight title on points.
No mean feat.
I remember jumping around the living room when he won that. So that's probably the biggest win. But I mean, look, you have to give kudos to Amir. I mean, like I say, he went to the States. He's been a pay-per-view star over there. I've got a list here. He's beaten Paulie Malignaggi, Zab Judah, Luis Colazzo, Maidana, Devon Alexander, and Chris Algieri. All have been world champions. You know, Porter had a good career after he lost to Kell Brook. But I mean, Amir's gone over there to the States, become a star, was in, you know, training side by side with Manny Pacquiao in the wildcard gym with Freddie Roach in LA. I feel like probably Kell won.
Bit of a glass jaw, though, isn't he? Let's be honest. Bit of a glass jaw. A little bit. Walked into punches.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of Amir's appeal, I think. Yeah, absolutely. If you do catch him, it's
normally good night. Yeah, good night. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if you've got the photo there, but Canelo versus Amir. I mean, this is another thing about Amir as well. He and Kell, to be fair to him, they're warriors. They will take the challenge. I mean, both are welterweights. They both went up to middleweight and fought to the pound for pound best. Amir fighting Canelo got smoked in about 5 rounds, albeit a fight he was actually winning on the scorecards. I mean, you have to take a baseball bat to Canelo these days to be up on the scorecards, but there you go. There was no coming back from that shot.
No. I mean, but it's a hell of a shot. But Canelo is a devil in the ring. He's a
absolutely.
We saw that recently, didn't we?
Yeah.
So you mentioned the gloves are off show. That was really intriguing because we've got great chat going on. Sarah Davis makes a great point when she says, I hope you're doing well, Sarah. Hope Brook knocks him out. Not that point, but she mentioned that she feels Brook wants it more. And do you know what? Hawk says it again. Brook looks like he wants it more. I just think the emotion is something that has to be disciplined, and because, as I was saying on Twitter just recently to Mark Heath, the emotion is there from Kell Brook. He desperately wants this fight. Saturday night, when the bell goes and the lights come on, he's got to have discipline to manage that emotion.
Yeah.
And go with the game plan that him and his team have put together. Because if he goes in there with the way that he was looking, and on the gloves are off, it's going to go either 1 or 2 rounds, and it'll be him knocked out or Amir Kahn knocked out in a sort of street fight, because it looks really personal to Kell Brook.
Yeah, I do actually think they begrudgingly do actually like each other. I'll be very interested to see what happens at the final bell. Part of me even thinks it could be some kind of spin-off series where they go, I don't know, traveling around the UK or something. One of these things you see on like Sky Showcase or something of that nature. I do think there is a little respect there, and they could be friends afterwards. Certainly, you've seen that with Fletch and Groves. I mean, they've been doing shows together. So, I mean,
there's that boxing respect, though, isn't there? There's always that boxing respect when you step in the ring and you're putting your lives on the line.
Yeah, I mean, Amir will give it the chat, but he does know that going to the States and outpointing Sean Porter, prime Sean Porter, was a great victory, and it's one he hasn't got on his own record, albeit, like we say, he has beaten world champions. But that really was an impressive win for Kell. It was followed up probably by 3 kind of beige defences. One was Frankie Gavin, who promised a lot as a world amateur champion from Birmingham, never really cut it as a pro. I think both of them have probably, in the last 6 years, they've seen their careers nosedive off the back of moving up to middleweight. So we know what happened with Amir facing Canelo. Got absolutely sparked, albeit, as I say, he was actually winning the fight on the card. Then two judges had it as even, and one had him up. And then same with Golovkin, when Kell fought Golovkin, he was up on the cards. I mean, this was prime Golovkin at the time. He'd just come off Macklin's ribs. He'll be commentating for Sky tomorrow night. One shot, ended him in the 3rd round. I mean, it was a great performance from Kell. I honestly was watching it thinking he's going to win this. And then he couldn't really take the heavy shots of Golovkin, and it broke his right eye socket, and they waved it off. Neither have really been the same ever since those 2 defeats.
I do think boxing, as boxing fans, we can sometimes take a Golovkin in this case, take him now and forget what he was. He was a tremendous fighter who could hurt anybody in his prime. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right to say that.
You could argue there's some people who think he won both fights against Canelo. I certainly think he won the first one, albeit they gave it a draw. I think probably Canelo just outpointed him in the second one, but they're talking of a 3rd one. So you could see that at the tail end of this year. But it just goes to show what warriors Amir Kahn and Kell Brook are, to go to leave the comfort zone of what is welterweight light middle and move up to 160 odd pounds.
Talking of weight, that's been a big talking point, because Kell Brook feels he feels like he's being made to be a weight that he doesn't want to be. Well, talk to us about that. Tell people at home what's been going on there, because that's been a big thing. He even said yesterday, I might not even come in underweight. And of course, there's a huge fine for every pound they're over.
There was. He did come in.
He did.
So the problem was, Kell's really struggled at 147 pounds, which is welterweight, which is the welterweight weight. So Amir's played the game there. He's doing a little Mayweather trick here, which I always used to criticise Mayweather for, and I've got to criticise Amir for this, in that because he's on the A side. You hear this a lot in boxing. They've used it in the lead up to this. Who's the A side and who's the B side? And of course, Mayweather was always the A side. So he would dictate terms in the contract. And Amir and his team know that Kell struggles to get down to 147. He was forced to go to 147 against Terence Crawford in his last fight and got stopped in 4 rounds. So they've seen that. And of course, we'll come to this in a second. Amir's trainer is Bud Crawford, his team that knocks out Brook in his last fight. So they've seen that. They know he's really comfortable at 154. So they're going to make him dehydrate down to 149. As it was, he came in at 148. Had he come anything over 149, it would have cost him 100 grand a pound.
Every pound.
Yeah, can you imagine? Expensive scales, isn't it? But fair play to him. He has made it. He's got it to 148. So fair play to Kel. But that will have a factor in the fight because they'll both balloon back up to about 160 pounds, I would have thought. But to get down to that, I mean, it doesn't sound much, is it? Oh, you only got to lose 1 or 2 pounds. It's a killer. You've got you're dehydrating down by losing water weight. So he'll be drinking a litre an hour to try and put probably 20 pounds back on, which he's probably almost done since the weigh-in at lunchtime today. So that must affect more than just your body. That must affect your mental psyche because if you're drinking that much, it's got to go somewhere, right? You're going to be leaking like a dear Delizah's empty bucket. Both are misery to rehydrate back up to the weight and to lose it.
So your sleep pattern will be fucked ahead of a key fight.
And then you've got to go in with an elite fighter.
Yeah.
In front of 20,000 people, however many million watching around the world, and he's shattered. Yeah. So I do admire Kel for doing that. And it was a bit of a shithouse tactic from Amir, but they know what they're doing. That is the game. And Mayweather would do this all the time. You know, everyone says he's the greatest 50-0, 51-0, whatever it was. He was always making sure that people were playing to his terms. And Amir's done the same here as the A side. Yeah.
Hox says, nice mixed grill gets me the £10. Absolutely, Hox. I'm with you. Yeah. I'm absolutely with you. A nice mixed grill kebab. Oh, now I've just had my dinner and you got me hungry again, Hox. We've got some comments coming in. The Durrance problem for Kelly. He has dodgy eye socket. Recently had a bad defeat because of it. Is he too pumped? Asked the Durrance. Is Brook too pumped, man?
Yeah, he probably is. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Marnie. He is really emotionally invested in it. And I mean, we were talking to Mayweather just a minute ago. Ricky Hatton also was emotionally invested in beating Mayweather. They travelled the world together. I remember Ricky saying it's like being with a big kid. Mayweather got into his head a little bit. And I always remember at the weigh-in, Ricky was, fueled by the Brit fans that were over in Vegas at the MGM Grand, did this kind of cutthroat sign to Mayweather. Mayweather always said, I knew I'd win from the point he'd done that. He had gone over the edge a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we might be thinking the same, that Kel is so pumped up, he might come out and it could be an easy night's work for him. You just don't know. Like you say, he's got to manage it. It'll be down to Domingo and his team to manage it. I mean, he's been with Kel on and off since he was about 10 years old. So at the Winco Bank gym in Sheffield, of which Johnny Nelson and Prince Nazim were also stars of that gym.
Prince Nazim, what a boxer.
Yeah. So they came all through that with Dom's dad, Brendan Ingle. But it's interesting to me that Johnny Nelson is one of the key pundits, basically one of Kel's best friends. So I don't know why Sky do that, to be honest with you, because he's going, I've never seen him in such great shape. That's Johnny Nelson just supporting his best mate.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, everyone needs supporters like that. We've got Josh Russell. Kahn wins this by KO, but don't underestimate Brook.
Yeah.
Was he Blue Af boy? Does anyone know what pubs in town are having it on? I don't for sure, Blue Af, but I'd imagine a place called Bears, just along the waterfront. That is but it used to be a sports bar. I don't know if it still is. Obviously, the pandemic's changed a lot of things. So look that up.
Be about 10 o'clock the rim walk, I would have thought. Maybe a little bit after.
Absolutely. Normally about 10:30. But I mean, I watched Frotch Groves won in Bears on my UK leg of my stag do. I was so hell bent that Groves were going to knock Frotch out. Came close, and then it just.
I think it's in the same arena, the Manchester Arena, which has got a bit of history for Amir Khan, because you'll remember him getting knocked out by Brady's Prescott in 54 seconds. That was in the Manchester Arena. Someone said to me before the fight, Kahn will get annihilated. And me, my naivety was like, what? That's what happened. Got him with a punch. Exposed his skin. But then within 3 fights, he was a world champion, beat Kotelnik in the same arena. So he's got a love-hate relationship with the Manchester Arena. Yeah.
And obviously it's Sheffield United versus Bolton as well. Bring a bit of a football.
War of the Roses, Yorkshire, Lancashire.
Yeah, tie into it. Question for yourself, Matt, from Hox. He asks, hang on, I've lost it. I have lost it. I do. Well, yeah. Will we see a war or a tactical affair? Great question, Hox.
Because I think, it's hard to say. Look, I think what will happen is that Amir will come out.
Essex, you think?
I think Amir will come out as a little bit of a whirling dervish. I mean, if you watch some of the behind the rope stuff, his new trainer, Brian McIntyre, who's Terence Crawford's trainer, as I said earlier, Brook's last fight was a loss, a 4-round stoppage to Terence Crawford. So they've kind of got his number a little bit. And he was trying to get Amir to throw with that speed, but just a little bit slower. He's got a medicine ball up on his shoulder, Bomac, which is his nickname. He's going to throw the power, but a little bit slower. I mean, he does come in all guns blazing, which is what does sometimes stick him over. He went over in the first round against Crawford, for example. But that's what makes him exciting. And I think Kell has always been like a really tactical fighter. He does bring a little bit of power, but he's kind of methodical as well. He's not like a typical Ingle fighter in like Johnny Nelson and Harold Graham and Nazim Hamid were really difficult to hit. They were really difficult to hit. I mean, Kell's a bit easier to hit, I think. And I think Terence Crawford proved that a little bit in that he took a couple of rounds off, 1 and 2, stepped it up in the third, stopped him in the fourth. That's the worry for Kell. He looked like a shot fighter in that fight. And the worry for him is the people that masterminded that blueprint for Crawford are in Amir's corner tomorrow night.
Absolutely. I just want to share something from the Sun. It paints the picture really well. It's 2 boxes. This is what they're saying. Let me just make it slightly bigger for the guys and girls at home. Kahn said, in the past 10 years, I fought 2 of the best pound-for-pound best fighters. I've never run from Kell, never needed to. What I've achieved speaks for itself. There is no point crying about the past. In the past, he hasn't deserved this fight. Come February 19th, it was time to see if he can back those words up. I'm coming levels down by taking this fight. Just soak that sentence in. I fought the best in the world. I've conquered America. But people want to see me punch him in the face. It's my time now to put him in his place and move on to bigger and better things. But Brook said, he's in cuckoo land. You're getting knocked out. You're getting knocked clean out. I will knock you spark out. That's when Amir Khan will hit the deck for the final time. He's always veered off, never given me respect, never acknowledged me. This is when the personal issues, when you really start to hear and feel that bitterness, that never acknowledged me, never respected me. Win a world title, then I'll fight you. Fight this guy, then I'll fight you. He has run away. It has got to be a part of his career where there's nowhere else for him to run. I have wanted it for many years. Just Kahn literally sort of with a trowel laying that on, and Brook's just eating it and getting more green with it.
I mean, there's an argument for both there. I mean, like the donuts are saying there, when was the last time Kahn boxed? It's a great question. He actually had a fight in Saudi Arabia in 2019 on Channel 5 against Billy Dibb at welterweight, and Billy Dibb was I think a featherweight champion from Australia. So he's making him go straight up a couple of weights. 2 free weights. So, I mean, that wasn't really a serious fight. It was borderline exhibition, really. So, I mean, I think there could be some ring rust for Amir as well. But like I say, he's really been through it in these training camp. He's how different the two are. Kell went over to the Canary Islands, Fuerteventura, which has always been his kind of base for the big fights with the Ingle gym. So they've been over there since November. And Amir went over to Colorado Springs with Brian McIntyre, Bomac, Terence Crawford's trainer, and training at altitude. So he's been training in the snow and the ice, the 3-mile runs through the mountains and all that kind of stuff. So, their training camps have been polar opposites. I mean, Kell did look in good shape today, but what the dehydration down to the weight of 148 is going to be, I don't know. And Amir made 147 quite comfortably. It's his comfortable weight, But in terms of we talk about seasoning a little bit, and Amir mentioned it there. Oh, he's not really my class. Amir's done all his fights, all his training camps, mostly in the States. He's had Freddie Roach, like I said earlier, the wild card. He's had Virgil Hunter, who was Andre Ward's trainer. He's had Joe Goosen. He's had Owen Adams. He's had the best minds in the world, really, of boxing training. And Kell Brook's always been, other than a couple of fights, has always been loyal to the Winco Bank in Sheffield.
That said, Billy did come out of retirement to fight Kahn, Matt. So, it wasn't...
Yeah, he's a good fighter, Billy Dibb.
But he was in retirement.
There's weight divisions for a reason, and Billy Dibb is not a welterweight. But
no,
it is what it is.
Tevin Farmer, didn't he? And then he went into retirement briefly.
I think, to be honest with you, I think both fighters here, Kahn and Brook, have both had a toe in retirement, and it took this fight for Kell to say, "Yeah, okay, I'll have it." Because I think after Terence Crawford, he looked a little bit shocked to me. I actually thought he'd do all right in that fight. He got hit by one shot, and I think one of the guys, maybe it was the Donuts earlier in the comments, was saying about the eye sockets. As soon as he was staggered, he was there. Didn't want to know about it, and it was waved off pretty quickly. And Amir said himself, he's said this in interviews. He was fat, he was overweight. It took that motivation of the Brook signing on the contract to get him motivated. So, but we're in the last chance saloon for both. And as Michael Buffer said today, we've got no titles or belts on the line. This is all about legacy and bragging rights for the next decade.
Well, forever, yeah, absolutely. Which is why as Hock said earlier in the chat, rematch is not for me. I'm not a big fan of that. Let's lay it all on the line, one night only, gentlemen. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
As we sort of come to a close, before I ask you who you think's going to win, we've already detailed in quite good length that they're in the twilight of their career. But what are the strengths and the weaknesses of both fighters, and how is that going to play into the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Amir, with the strengths obviously is the hand speed. People say he slowed down a bit, but his hand speed is unbelievable. And this is the worry for Kell, in that he said when Crawford stopped him, it pretty much was a jab come right hook. He never saw the punch coming, and he'd never been hit like that in his life. And I would say that Amir, even though he's probably not quite as good as Terence Crawford, we saw that because Crawford stopped him in 6 rounds, albeit with a low blow, and he couldn't continue. But I think he didn't want much more of Crawford. Amir does punch just as quick as him. And you've said it before, Amir, he can lead with his chin, he can get reckless, he will think he's on the verge of victory, and he will get the bravado will come out, and he will try and stand toe to toe, ends up getting knocked out. We saw that with Danny Garcia, a fight he was winning, and then he suddenly caught a left hook, and it was curtains. So they're the things that I think Mac and Crawford have all been working on with him. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he'll come out at the same kind of hand speed, albeit maybe a little bit more measured. That's kind of what I'm expecting. With Kell, he's a switch hitter. That's what they do in the Ingle gym. He can go from orthodox to southpaw. He's a little bit more methodical. He's got a decent knockout ratio. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but he's had stoppages. He's got the heart of a lion. He stood toe to toe with Golovkin. Not many people do that.
Not many do that. No.
And he came out with a broken eye socket in that. I do think his left eye socket was broken in that fight as well. You only saw that in the next one against Errol Spence when they said that one had gone as well.
Yeah.
So that's a weakness for him as well. I do think if he's in trouble, you might see him cover up again, as he did against Crawford. Because I think that's a mental barrier hard to get over.
Incredibly hard.
Yeah, you bust both. He's got great timing.
Totally.
He did have great timing. And, if Amir does come out all guns blazing and he walks onto one of those, what Kell calls a chocolate brownie, Babby, could be curtains for Amir.
We've got Christopher Potter, Kahn for me, KO. Colin, it's going 12 rounds. Hawks asked the greatest question. Who's the biggest shagger, Kahn or Brook? We don't know, Hawks. That's a question we have to answer another day. Josh Russell, Kahn, round 10. It's not getting anywhere past round 7, boys and girls. This is late round stuff. I'm not having it. HJM boxing, Kahn is a superior boxer. Just whether Brook can tame. I think it means tame him, but it can time him.
Exactly. Yeah. Amir could come out with those speed punches, footwork all over the shop. It only takes a bit of timing. Right hand, right cross. Could be.
The thing is, though, we talk about Kell trying to master the emotion. Amir Kahn could very easily come out wanting to knock him out early to prove that, this is not even a fucking debate. Not even a debate, ladies and gentlemen. And he goes in once, he leaves his chin exposed. We know one of the many weaknesses of Amir Kahn is his glass chin. Is the fact he can't.
He's been down a lot. I think he's probably been down about 11 or 12 times.
I still want to get in a fight with him. Don't get me wrong. I still would literally leg it in the other direction.
And then you look at someone like Vladimir Klitschko. He'd been about down the same amount of times as well, but everyone still sees him as like an all-time great heavyweight. There's no doubt that Amir has got a weak chin. But having said that, when he fought Marcus Maidana, he took Mayweather to 2 really close fights. That was a hellacious war with Maidana. And Kahn floored Maidana, something Mayweather couldn't do with a body shot. How he ever got up from that, I don't know. But Maidana was a ferocious puncher. He hit Kahn with everything he had. Kahn never went down. So just goes to show, if the timing's there, you can catch him. But don't just think if you hit him, he'll go down, because certainly the Maidana fight proved that he won't. Okay,
we're going to close it up because we're now beginning 5 with the press conference reaction. So 2 questions. 1. When is Katie Taylor next fighting, Matt?
Katie's back out. She's back out in May against, I think it's one of the Serrano sisters. Huge fight at the Madison Square Garden. I think it's going to be in May. That'll be on Box Office as well, I think. So we'll have to do a show around that one as well.
Love to. Yeah. Lay it on the line for me. Who's winning this one?
So my money has gone on Kahn, and I think he will get the job done between rounds 1 and 6. I think I've got 9-2 on that one. So that's where my money's gone. I know you can get evens on either fighter on Paddy Power to win by knockout. So you can double your money. I don't think it's going to go points. If it does go points, you could well see another fight. So Ben Shalom and Adam Smith at Sky might be thinking to himself, goes to points, it's a bit contentious. We could do this again because the fight sold out in seconds, and I think it's going to do really good at the box office. But for me, I've put a $5 on Amir between 1 and 6.
Okay, Amir between 1 and 6.
Yeah.
Cruncher says Brook in 7. HJ in boxing. Brook versus Port or Kahn versus Madonna. What's the better win?
Oh, I would say Brook beating Porter.
I agree. Totally agree with that. Great question, though, HM in boxing.
Yeah,
Thank you for posing it. There we go. I'm going to say Brook in 4.
Wow. Well, could happen. Like I say, you catch Kahn.
Oh, I know.
You could go.
Oh,
absolutely. That's what's so exciting about it.
It is. Truly is. Right. There we go. How's it going to work out? Let's just wait and see. I'm excited for the fight. Matt has definitely been the greatest hype man I've seen in a long time for the fight. Not that it needed hyping, but there we go. This has been your Talking Knockouts. We'll see you in 5 if you're a Ipswich Town fan for the press conference reaction show. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Good work, Matt.